Hello and good morning. uh, 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. And I have, this is primarily for, well, it's for everybody, but it's for our Nothing Else Matters people. And if you're a Nothing Else Matters person, is everything okay? Okay. Sorry, I'm surrounded. My family is here this morning. It's been about 9 months since I stepped down and said I'm not, just after a lot of years in ministry, it's not I don't know. But there's not a Sunday that goes by that I don't think, well, maybe I should just go on and say a little something, maybe I should say a little something. And holidays like this is Easter Sunday, are especially difficult to remain quiet. And I woke up, Connie and I were this morning, and happy Easter. He is risen, right? He is risen with the ZZ. Mikey and I always joke about that. Riz, right? So I guess I should get to this. This is awkward. Not awkward. I'll just give it to you. It's the privatization of Christ that makes days like Easter Sunday so awkward for me. It's that we had to take God from the whole world, privatize God, and then try to bring God back to the whole world through what we call the Great Commission. And the Great Commission is messed up, not because it's not a worthwhile endeavor, but because we made it conditional instead of declarational. Celebrating the resurrection in a declarational sense of who Christ is, what the incarnation is, that love took on human form, and that love lived a human life, and that love brought love into that human life, and that love suffered, and that love died. And in the process of revealing the true nature of God, love also gave a promise to all suffering humanity that the frailty of the human experience is not the final word, but that there is a beyond. There is life beyond. There is promise beyond the suffering and frailty of this life. That is something worth talking about. But it's meaningless if it's privatized. It's meaningless if it's conditionalized. It's meaningless if it's he is risen, and that's only relevant to those who believe A, B, and C. But I've never been good at Easter messages. People that know me know that. I've never been good at Christmas messages. People that know me know that. And I finally understand why. I'm finally giving articulation to why. And the why is simply because, that's my dog, he's not getting attention, and now he's got to let everybody know nobody's paying attention to me because he's abused. Somebody call the pet people right away, because there's 3 minutes a day where he's not the center of the world, and I'm telling you, it borderlines on, like a prison ward. I mean, just, the horror, it's like, it's terrible what he's going through. But the promise, if you conditionalize the promise, then it's meaningless. What do I have to say to anybody about he is risen? What I mean is that's good news for my team. And that's not good news. Good news is not good news if it's conditionalized. Good news is not good news if it's weaponized. Good news is not good news if it's made exclusive. So I have trouble celebrating Easter. I have trouble celebrating the resurrection because when it's God was so angry and so incompetent that he set up a system whereby it ended up punishing people he didn't want to punish because they got in league with something else he created that he didn't want to create, and that went bad on him. And then he tried a new creation with Adam and Eve, and that went south on him. And then he tried a new creation with the people of Israel, and they went south on him. So he tried a new thing by coming down himself, and that went south on him. And now it's good news if you believe what we believe. And that is weak. That is Antichrist. And that has no hope to it at all. But if who we refer to as Jesus is really love, the love that made the universe, took on human form, and in that showed the true nature of who God is, that God is not wrathful, vengeful, petty, vindictive, or divisive. And in showing who that love is as God, also showed what it means to be human. That religion is not trying to be vertically aligned so you can be on the right team to get to the next place. True religion is simply seeing suffering in the world and purposing to ease that suffering and alleviate that suffering. And then, suffering being so central to humanity, love, God taking on human form, encountered and experienced that suffering and that frailty. And then God, in full human experience, went through agony and suffering and died, not as a price, not as a penalty, not as a substitution, but as a full universal human like everybody else. But that this world does not, that suffering is not the final outcome. To all those suffering around the world, past and present, that suffering is not the final outcome. To all of us doing well around the world, who will one day suffer the agony of death and loss, that is not the final thing. But Christ not as a privatized, religious, indigenous, weaponized religious figure, but Christ as a human example of God, showing the love of God, showing the fullness of humanity, not being able to be confined by the frailty and failings and death and suffering of this life. That promise is worth celebrating today. And that promise is, why is this a special day to you? Because it's a special day to me as a human being to know that the frailty and suffering of this life is not the final note of this existence, that there's something beyond that. Why do I believe in the resurrection? Because I believe in the pattern of all things. As I stand around and look at my trees and my little crepe myrtles, and they're starting to get little sprouts on them, I believe in the resurrection of Christ for the same reason I believe in that the seemingness of suffering and fall and winter and death and coldness is not the final, but there's always a springing of new life. I believe in that. And today I celebrate that Christ is a microcosm of that. But it's not a Christian victory. It's not a Jewish victory. It's not a believer victory, a Muslim victory. It's a human victory. And I declare that today. That today's a good day for humanity, because it should be a reminder that death and suffering are not the final note of our lives and our existence, but that there's a hope beyond. And I want you to be encouraged in that today. And I want you to encourage others in that today. Because if your religion isn't universal for humanity, it's not true religion. If we're stuck on who's on the right team and who believes the correct what, it's not true religion. We declare the truth of Christ, that that God became a human, like any and every human. God showed love and revealed God, like any and for any and every human. God suffered, not as a penalty or a price or a assuaging of God's wrath and anger, none of those myths, but as a human, accessible to every human. So red, yellow, brown, black, white, Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, anti-theist, agnostic, LGBTQ, doesn't matter. A human is what you are. And today is hopeful because we all as humans come from love. Our highest purpose as humans is to show love and to alleviate and eliminate suffering. And even as humans who are come from love, who engage in love, who aim for love, we ourselves experience suffering. And today is glorious because as a human in the person of Christ, suffering was not the end for Christ, and it's not the end for us. And I don't care what religion you believe or what religion you don't believe, if you can just have hope that not based on being part of a right team, but if God was at all shown in Jesus, at all, and that Jesus is at all a model for living, at all, not the religion made around him, but the truth of just going through and trying to help people and trying to bring love and trying to ease suffering. And if even a good person, quote unquote, like that can suffer, and even for the good suffering person, if it's not the end, but maybe it could be possibly true that even those of us who suffer, all humanity who dies, could have hope beyond that. That is a hopeful day. And I'm hopeful today. So I've never celebrated Easter like this. I've always celebrated Easter as a conquering of sin, a victory over the grave, a beat up of the devil, paid the price for my sins, and bought my inheritance into eternal life. And all of that is too small, because all of that is my team versus their team. And if Jesus is at all an incarnation of God, if there's anything in that story that tells us the truth about God's love, it doesn't tell it to us just for those who sign up and join up. Matter of fact, you can't really sign up and join up, because just because it happened to be in Jewish flesh, in male flesh, in Second Temple Israel flesh, it was all about all flesh and all humanity. There's nothing to believe. There's nothing to sign up for. There's nothing to confess. There's nothing to get right with. There's nothing to accept a penalty or substitution, because if I don't, I'm going. It's not the answers that we've been wrong about in Christianity, it's the questions. And today I celebrate that maybe there's hope for all humanity. That the suffering that I see, the death that I see, the pain that I see, that we all see, it doesn't end there. And if Christ points us to that hope, then in that case, happy Easter. Somebody say, why aren't you in church today? Because it's hard to find any church that's not going to tell me they're going to tell me about love, they're going to tell me about mercy, they're going to tell me about, but it all starts with a false question about who God is, and a false answer to getting around that suffering and punishment of God by a privatized version of God that says some people have it and some people don't, and isn't God good that we're the ones who have it? That's much too small. So I'm out here on my porch with my my beagle. Dude, anybody want a beagle? Anybody want the Easter beagle? You can have him. He's adoptable today for free. I'll send him with treats. I have hope for resurrection, but not for me and mine, not for people that believe like I do. I have hope for resurrection for humanity, and that maybe if God was at all involved in any of what we know to be about Jesus, or any of what we believe in Jesus, biblical Jesus, historical Jesus, mythical Jesus, it doesn't matter. My hope is that, man, if he died and suffered and was alone and ashamed, and it didn't end there for him in that pain and that misery, then maybe that's not where it ends for all humanity or any humanity. That's exciting today. And to celebrate, I'm gonna go yell at my beagle and have some food. Happy Easter. I'm not gonna yell at my beagle.